Welcome to this edition of Colors of Life. It's a special edition. That's why we are in a new location. Today, I'm speaking to Pastor Chisa Nosamiefan, mother, wife, missionary, and advocate for Lupus. She's going to be talking to us about her incredible journey of over 20 years serving God in spite of illness, this illness called lupus. Pastor Chisa, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I remember, I've known you for over 2 decades, probably almost 3, and you were a regular young girl. You married this medical doctor that was working in the finance industry, and then next thing you packed up and went to the mission field in Haiti. Tell us about that.
How crazy.
I know.
How crazy. When I look back, I'm like, wow. But I guess at that time when you're young, you're able to do anything, and just that passion for Christ at the time. So here we were at the time when we all got God. It was just like a move of God, all running towards God. Whatever God had to say, we were ready to jump,
That was in the early 90s.
Yes,
at the Apapa
yes, at the Apapa parish
of the Redeemed Christian Church of God.
Fantastic, yes. And I just remember everything was done with such zeal, And at the time when the Lord started to move us to the world, to the ends of the earth, move us out. When we were here, I guess that was the training we got. One of the things that we did, what God had us do in that time, a lot of those parishes that were started in the very beginning, we were always sent there as, we go there for a few months and come back.
Like training.
Yes, we used to go there to start the church plant, and then when the team is put together, we come back to base. So we did a lot of it. I remember those churches around Lagos, and then we did a lot of that. And then even outside Lagos, because I remember there was a time where for about 6 weeks, almost 3 months, we were going to Ibadan every Sunday when they were going to start that parish, and then we came back to base. And I remember even the church in Abuja, we drove Pastor, I remember Sister Tokes. Oh, Pastor Tokes.
Okay.
We drove we drove up there to wait for Gio on the other end when we were going to start that church. So that just happened to be, like I said, whatever God puts before you.
So Gio is Pastor Deboye.
Yeah, Pastor Deboye.
So tell us how you received the call.
So
it's
then,
a very interesting
story
to go to
at
Haiti.
the time when they were moving, asking us to, before we were asked to go to Haiti, something strange happened.
Okay.
I was pregnant with my second son. I was about 8 months pregnant, almost there. And one day after church, I went over to my parents' home. Okay. And sitting there, my aunt was there, and she said to my mom, I don't like the way Chisa's breathing. Okay. And I said, Auntie, what do you mean by that? I'm 8 months pregnant. How do you expect me to breathe, So she said, no, there's something wrong. I just don't like the way it is. So my mom said to me, okay, Chisa, on your way home, just stop at the hospital, which was around the corner. Okay. So I did. And when I stopped at the hospital, the doctors looked at me and they said, oh, you're having asthma attacks. And severe asthma attacks, and they're coming one after the other. They're not subsiding. And I thought, strange. I've never had asthma in my life. I don't even know what it feels like when people say, I have asthma, I can't breathe, because I never really knew what that was. So they said, we'll have to hospitalize you for a few days because we want to make sure the baby is okay and getting enough oxygen. And when the asthma attacks subside, then maybe they will have to do a C-section or something. Okay. So, but they will see. So I was there in the hospital, and for 5 days, lying there doing nothing. The TV in the room, it was, CNN. We all know how CNN does the same news over and over again. So I'm lying there and I'm just watching, mindlessly. Okay. And they're showing the same thing over and over again. This Aristide, the president of Haiti that had gone in exile to the States, was being sent back to Haiti. So they were showing his plane arriving in Haiti, and they'll show it again. And for 5 days, I was watching that. I didn't think anything about it. I just thought boring, whatever. So, and I left, had the baby. I was living my life. When 6 months later, my husband was asked if he would go to Haiti because they wanted to start a parish in Haiti. And so when he said it, it was like, wow, now I know where Haiti is, because before then I'd never even heard of Haiti. I mean, if you had said Haiti to me, I would have thought of Tahiti or something like that, So I'd never really heard of it before, and I'm like, wow, God, I said, I know where it is. I know how the airport is. I know how you land in the airport because I'd seen it so often, you know.
Okay.
And so he left. He left before us, and then we joined him. And of course, we had to pack up everything. I mean, we really did the missionary thing crazy at that time. Just packed up everything, sold everything, and with 2 young children. So the baby, by the time we left, the baby was about 11 months, and then my older son was like 2.5 or so.
And you ended up staying how many years in Haiti?
And we stayed 5 years in Haiti. So we lived in Haiti for 5 years.
Okay. Now it's interesting how, you know, you believe obviously that God led you to Haiti, having spoken to you through CNN, and then later through your pastor.
Yes.
You have another interesting story of how God led you from Miami?
No, Tampa, Florida.
From Tampa to
Florida
Boston.
to Boston.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so after we left Haiti, we got an assignment, a church assignment as pastors, missionary pastors in Florida. So we moved to Florida.
Okay.
And once we were there for a number of years, maybe about 7, 8 years. And one day my husband got up and said, you know, the Lord said we should move to Boston. I'm like, Boston? For what? We don't know anybody there. I'm not going to Boston, you know. And it's, but he was so serious. He got up and he drove to Boston, and he went to look for a school. It was summer, so he went to look for a school for the children so that they could start in the fall, in September. Okay. So he came back and says, we're moving. And I'm like, so while he was gone, it was then, I think he had come back. Then it was my birthday. Okay. So my birthday, we had a church, a small fellowship at the time. And there's this lady that was, you know, she was like, you know, she was everything. I was mentoring her, she was my PA, everything. And she'd come to the house every day, almost every day. So that day she came to the house. When I opened the door, she says, happy birthday, Pastor Chisa. And I frowned, and she's like, what's wrong? And I didn't answer. And so here she is, she had the gift wrapped. She had this little suitcase she was holding and a gift wrapped. And I just frowned. And she says, oh, I bought you some birthday presents. I said, really? I said, for what? She said, she was confused. So she says, well, I just thought to bring you something. And then she gave it to me. She said, here. I said, why would you ever buy me a suitcase? And she says, I don't know. And then she gave me the present, and I unwrapped it, and it was Boston tea, a whole box of Boston tea. I'm like, why would you buy me tea and a suitcase? What kind of present is that? She said, I don't know. I just saw this and I thought I should buy it for you. And I thought, my God, okay, Lord, off I am to Boston. And I was with my tail between my legs. I took off and went to Boston.
So could it have been a coincidence?
Well, you know, yes, it could.
Okay.
But it's a very strange coincidence. And because I believe in the sovereignty of God, and over time, like my other story, God always talks to me in that way. Okay. So I kind of know when, you know, it's God, it feels like it's God that is speaking. Okay. Because I always have to have something that I can look back on and said, I remember, like I'm telling you this story that happened how many years ago. Okay. So there's always something significant. I look for the God factor, that's what I say. In everything that happens, I look for the God factor. What is it about this story that can only be God? You know, yeah.
So amazing. So God can speak through CNN. He can speak through a box of tea and a suitcase. Chisa, we will take a break now. Yes. And when we come back, you're going to talk to us about your advocacy, Lupus advocacy.
Okay, I will.
So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Colors of life.
Welcome back to Colors of Life. I'm talking to Pastor Chisa Nosamiefan, who believes that we should pursue our purpose with passion. And she's been doing exactly that in spite of physical challenges. So we're going to ask her about that journey and see what we can learn from her example. So Chisa, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tell me about the Labalaba Foundation. I love the name. Where did that unusual name come from, and what do you do?
Okay, so the Labalaba Foundation is the Labalaba Foundation for Lupus Advocacy and Awareness. Okay. And lupus is an autoimmune disease. Okay. That it's predominantly in women of African descent, of childbearing age, that's between 15 and 45. Okay. It's prevalent around the world. But it's called the invisible disease because you don't see it. and it's hard to diagnose.
Okay.
Because it mimics a lot of different things. You know, the symptoms are things that are seem very common: fevers and loss of hair and miscarriages and all that, and it could be anything. So that's difficult. So for lupus, just like with cancer, we have the pink ribbon.
Yeah.
So with lupus, it's actually a purple butterfly.
Okay.
So in looking to start a foundation, I was looking to use a Nigerian name, and I looked at what butterfly was. Being Igbo, I looked at the Igbo one, and sorry mom, I couldn't pronounce it. So, and then I saw Labalaba, and that sounded very, easy and whatever. And it's Yoruba.
Okay.
And then my husband told me that, that's Labalaba is also butterfly in Edo.
Okay.
And I thought, oh,
and
wonderful.
He's Edo.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
My husband's from Edo. And so I decided to use the Labalaba. And so that's how we came about the Labalaba. So Labalaba actually means butterfly. So
Excellent.
the Butterfly Foundation.
Okay. And you've been diagnosed with lupus.
Yes.
For how many years?
I was diagnosed with lupus 23 years ago.
Wow, that's a long time.
That is a long time. It's a really long time.
Okay. And, how has it affected your life, your lifestyle?
Oh, well, lupus has affected everything about my life.
Okay.
I start from today and I say, I give God glory that I am alive today. That I've been at death's door. It's been up and down, in and out, everywhere. Like I said, lupus is an autoimmune disease that affects it attacks any organ, anywhere, anytime. It also says attacks anyone. So after I had my younger son, a few months later, I started to have some tingling in my fingers.
Okay.
And I just, thought it was, I didn't think much of it. And then by the time we got to Haiti, I fell ill.
Okay.
And then that transitioned to getting worse, losing weight, being very sick, and nobody knew what was going on.
Is there a cure for lupus?
No, there is none.
Okay.
There's no cure because they don't know how lupus comes on yet.
Okay.
There's a lot of research going on now,
Okay.
but they still don't know how it comes on. And the part of the reason there's no cure is that they haven't yet found the right medication. And like I said, lupus affects many different organs and has many different symptoms. And in every patient, if you have 10 patients that have lupus, they all manifest different things. So it's so difficult. So that's
what
a
are some of the
challenge.
limitations you live with?
So the limitations, for me
Yeah.
personally, is with lupus, there's a lot of fatigue, extreme fatigue.
Okay.
So there's so many things that you can't do. You're always constantly tired and unable to actually do things. And fatigue, I'm not saying tired, like, oh, today I'm tired. No, it's actually the extreme fatigue. And then, so that's kind of a challenge. And so it's for those who, they say only 31% of the adults with lupus can actually still work some.
Okay.
Because even to keep 9 to 5 job is almost impossible.
Yeah.
But then even some, because every now and then something's happening. So that's difficult.
In spite of all this, Chisa, you raised 2 boys. You
Yes,
moved
I
from
did.
Haiti
Yes.
to Miami,
Yes.
from Miami to Boston, and your
Yes.
2 sons have been to some of the best universities in the world. I know your first son went to Harvard,
Yes.
and your second son went to Trinity College.
Yes.
How did you manage to do this?
That's good. That's not really me, because one, I got married when I was young.
Okay.
And I guess got married, in my little just loving the Lord and my little foolishness, how God uses the foolish things. I didn't even think of, it wasn't in my mind how to be a mother or what to do. And thinking that I went to the mission field when my children were babies, and then I fell ill. And along the way, it was just God step by step, the faithfulness of God. Sometimes it's difficult to even explain. At every point, God took over and did something. I must give honor to my husband, because without a man like that, I don't think I'll be alive today. Because there are times when he had to be mom, he had to be dad, he had to be everything, priest, caregiver, everything. And of course, the turmoil is frustrating. He couldn't do the things that he had hoped to do and all of that because he had other things to do. But God was faithful to at least give us, make a way so that we could see that in the midst of God is always there. Like I said before, the God factor only God could have done what he did. People say to me, how could you raise 2 boys in America of today? And I say, I don't know how, but God was able to make a way. I take one day at a time. Whatever we could do, we did. Whatever we couldn't do, we didn't. And then in the midst of this, you realize that there's some things that we just take for granted and keep thinking that they're so necessary for life, and you find they're not really necessary.
I'm just going to butt in here because there's so many questions in my head. You know, Chisa, I know you have a healing ministry.
Yes, I do.
You know, I know you pray for people, they get healed.
Yes.
I heard that someone died while you were in Haiti and you actually prayed and God brought the person back to life.
Correct.
And yet,
correct.
Here you are with Lupus. Were you ever angry at God? Did you ever think that God has failed you?
I'm sure there were times where I felt a bit, you know, I did go through this period of, I went through that period of why me? Until the Lord said, why not you? And I came through the period of understanding that if not me, who? Because lupus is the worst thing. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It is so complex. If you look at if you Google lupus, you actually see, like Lupus Foundation of America, they say the cruel mystery disease. You know, it is because it crushes everything, financially, emotionally, it crushes everything, your body, any organ it likes. It's not, you can't pinpoint. And so, yes, there was a why me? And there was a time of, is there any place I can scream? But those periods, I guess part of it's my personality, because like me, I can get upset 1 minute, I forget I was upset the next minute. So that's part of my personality that God has given me. But I got to the place, why not me? Who would I wish this on? What does that mean, why me? Because we often say that, but what are you saying? It should be somebody else. And once I got that revelation, I stopped saying why me. And I decided to look at why is it me? And there must be a purpose why it is me.
Okay.
And so that's kind of changed my perspective.
You found that purpose, and that's why you have the Labalaba Foundation.
Correct.
And the Rise Foundation.
Yes.
There's a sentence you made that really has stayed with me. I mean, I've heard Miles Monroe famously saying we should die empty, but you said to me, I want to die at my post.
Yes.
What does that mean?
My post. Each of us, we all know, I mean, we confess it, we say that scripture all the time, that before we were born, God had a plan, a purpose for us to get to an expected end. There's a reason for each of us living. There's a purpose for which we were born. There's an assignment. I mean, there are seasons, of course, so assignments might change, but it's a general picture of God. It's one assignment, but just maybe different stages of the assignment. And my thing is that no matter what is going on, getting to the end of the road and telling God I didn't do this because I didn't have a husband, or I didn't have a child, or because I was sick, is not going to cut it. So what is the reason why you're living? And continue to fulfill your assignment. So it's like, God, don't allow me to derail. When you come, find me where you placed me. May I die at my post without being derailed.
And your post has included, you were telling me about your work in the Tampa area. Can you talk to us a little bit about your posts, maybe at different stages?
Yes, so by the time we came to Florida, it was funny because that was one of the sickest times of my life. I mean, if you see photographs of me then, you wouldn't recognize me. I lost so much weight, I was like a skeleton. I was so weak, I couldn't move. I couldn't dress myself, I couldn't eat. I was being fed. So it was really bad. But then we were all away in America with no family, no friends, nobody, and not knowing what was really going on. But then when I got to Florida, I had gotten an assignment with the Aglo International Ministry. They had asked me to be their state prayer coordinator and also, lead women leadership. So I doubt it had ever been done before, or it has been done since. But I, with my usual zeal and do it with a passion, So I mapped out the whole state. And I decided that I must go to every city in that state and have a prayer rally and women leadership thing. So I was having conferences all over. So I started, in the Key West, in Miami, beyond Miami, all the way to the top of Florida, which is Tallahassee, every city, every state. But I was so sick. So I was in my bed. Nobody knew I was sick because, you see, one thing about lupus patients, we don't look sick. So nobody believes you. Nobody can see it. It's invisible. So I was in bed all the time. my husband and my boys will get me up. They will bathe me. They will dress me. They will carry me there. I would rise on the platform, and under the anointing, I will preach. I will do that. I'll do that. I get back, and I go back to my bed. I did that throughout the state of Florida.
Amazing. This
Only God.
story is just incredible. So Chisa, we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we're going to ask you, what would you say to people who are out there and are struggling because they're Christians, they're following God faithfully, and they have one infirmity or the other? Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Colors of life.
Welcome back to our Colors of Life show. Today we are talking to Pastor Chisa Nosamiefan, who is doing an amazing work in creating awareness of lupus, an infirmity which she has lived with for over 20 years. Pastor Chisa, there would be, and I know there are lots of Christians faithfully following God, faithfully serving God, and yet they have an infirmity or the other. Sometimes they get so discouraged. What would you say to them?
I'd encourage them to not allow the infirmity to take over their lives.
Okay.
Whatever it is. You know, I find many Christians spend a lot of their time, I call it wasted time and wasted capital, spiritual capital, where you use a lot of your energy, your prayers, you're running to night vigils, you're going from pastor to pastor for counseling because there's something that you're looking for, or there's an ailment, or there's a challenge, whatever it may be, whether it is marriage or children or whatever it may be, or an ailment. Life happens to everyone. And in the midst of it, you must get to the place where you can say, well, life has happened. Allow yourself to grieve what could have been and keep moving forward, understanding that God is faithful, He's sovereign. God is able to do anything. In spite of everything, He's able to do anything. Okay,
I'll take you on something else, because while you were so ill, here you were going around Florida, you know, holding prayer meetings. Where do we draw the line? Where does it become irresponsible? And there's the faith and obeying God, and, you know, where do we say, now I'm not well, I need to take a rest, take a break?
Yeah, so that happens in, I guess, you know, as we walk with God and we listen closely to God, what happens is that, you know, there's a time, yes, part of it is you, me, and my zeal or whatever. But on the other hand, if not for those things, I may not have had purpose in life. Okay. Because all I'll be doing is looking for when is death going to come, you know, kind of thing. Okay. And that was a purpose, because I was always like the scripture that talks about the woman that said to the prophet, you know, he said, how can I help you? And what do you have? And she said, I have only a vessel of, you know, what did she say? Cruse of oil. Yeah. And that's how I see it. Okay. It's like, what do I have? I didn't have my body. I didn't have anything, but I had a cruse of oil. I had the anointing. Okay. And if I, as God said, if you find as many containers as you find, and you pour the oil into it, the oil will continue to flow. Okay. And really, for me, I saw it as human beings, people being that oil. As much as I continue to pour into people and the lives of people, the oil continues to flow, and it gives purpose for living, so that you can take your eyes off the situation and look at what do you have, not what don't you have. Okay, and one of the ways you're pouring this oil is through the Labalaba Foundation. So can you tell us about that work? So the Labalaba Foundation, our vision is that someday everybody in Nigeria will know what lupus is. Okay. And the advocacy part of it is that finding, since last year, every May, for May 10th is Lupus Awareness Month. So we have a big awareness seminar, health seminar at Lupus in Lagos. In Lagos, the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. So we work with the LASUT, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, and Lupus. Okay. And the patients and their families and anybody, it's a public thing for awareness. Okay. So we do that in May, and then in October is Lupus Awareness Month. And so I have a series called Living Well with Lupus that I training for the patients themselves, how to better live with the disease. And then also a Frank Talk, which is something for their spouses to understand what is going on and what can they do about it. And your husband leads that. So yes, my husband leads that, you know. So so that's what we do. So now it seems like pouring, yet still again, another assignment from God to pour into others' lives.
Okay.
Because it is anybody can die anytime. Within last year I started a support group for them to encourage them and to lift them up. And since last year, 2 of the people in the support group have gone. They were young ladies, 38 and 36, with young children, 3 months and 6-year-olds. So it's not a joke,
Yeah.
but we can live well, and we can with God, we can move ahead.
Pastor Chisa, your story is such an encouragement, and thank you for the good work you are doing and for taking time to come and talk to us on this program.
Thank you.
So this is where we draw the curtain on this edition of Colors of Life. We look forward to welcoming you again, same time next week. Remember to like us and follow us on social media. See you soon.